Now, in the studio, Bizzle is our dual threat analyst, Uncle B, Blaine Fowler, a national champion, all-around good man.
You won the national championship. That's pretty cool, man.
I feel lower than you guys today. Am I lower than you guys?
Your,
Here,
your paycheck's not lower.
Slouch a little bit so you don't. Yeah, there you go.
Wait.
Okay.
I feel better.
You feel better?
I want to be on your level.
Equal?
I want to be on your level.
Blaine,
No, it has nothing to do with you. I just want to be on your
We
level.
want to be on your level. Good gosh.
So I feel better now.
Fantastic. We just outlined what we think is going to happen in the New Year's 6 rankings tonight as far as it pertains to BYU. We think the Cougars are going to come in at number 12 and jump Oklahoma, who just lost their head coach and shot at the Big 12 title of losing to Oklahoma State.
Shot at the SEC title in a couple of years, too.
Hey, Blaine, is there any reason to believe that BYU would not jump at least one spot and be number 12 tonight?
I believe they'll be 12 tonight. Whenever we get to the end of the week, I go and look at every single projection from every national pundit to see. And we have to only give that so much weight because, remember, these are the same people that said that the over-under for BYU was 6.5 games to win this year. So although there's a lot, no, all of the
you're saying
the national pundits, like, so I'm talking about Sports Illustrated and CBS Sports and ESPN and all of these, you go look and just see what they're thinking. And so then I have to remind myself that, yeah, these are the same people that said BYU was going to win 6.5 games this year. Although I do think there's a lot more believers. And almost everybody has them at 12. Tonight, which I think is where they're going to be. Then the big question is that enough to get them into a New Year's 6 with 10 wins and being at number 12? I saw, as you were outlining, a scenario where they get to 11. At this point, every single spot makes a difference. Huge. 11 is a big difference from 12 now, right? Then they don't have. I see a lot of these that have the number 2 team in the ACC in instead of BYU with an
number
at-large.
2 ACC team.
Yeah,
no,
which is like, come on,
it's champ only.
Right. So come on, like why are you even doing that? There's some East Coast bias in some of these.
You don't understand how it works if you think the ACC number 2 is
right,
going, or Pac-12 number 2.
Exactly. No. And so, but there are some. I'm just going, what are these people like? And these are national writers. And I'm going, come on. Like, that's not happening, right?
We tried to outline this thanks to Spencer, on his New Year's 6 soapbox of, like, what bowls are attached to what conferences.
Right.
And what are at-large, right? It's Peach and Fiesta. There are 4 at-large spots. Notre Dame's getting one. ACC champ's getting one. And then probably Big 10 3 is getting one.
Yeah, Michigan State.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe Big 12 2. Like,
that's depending on what happens with Oklahoma State and Baylor.
That's the trouble is Big 10 3 and Big 12 2.
My favorite one that I looked at this weekend was Sports Illustrated because they had BYU in the Peach Bowl, which was they're my favorite. Right
Not
now.
even Fiesta, Peach.
They're my favorite right now. So, and so I think that your scenario is a very legitimate scenario. That's a great possibility that they get to 11 in the final ranking, and if they get to 11. Man, you'd have a lot of excuses to be making as a committee to not put BYU in when they're at 11 with a 10-2 record, and having beaten either first of all, Pac-12 South champion, but possibly in
the Pac-12
and probably the Pac-12 champion, right?
Probably, yeah.
And the second best team in the South, and the third best team in the South, and the second best team in the North, and so I know one of the problems is the Pac-12's devaluated itself a little bit, which hurts BYU.
Yes.
In this instance.
This will be what the Big 12 becomes, by the way.
Right.
No great team, but a bunch of very good teams.
Yeah. So I think there's a legit shot. Like, I don't think like 3 weeks ago we're going, man, it's a long shot. I don't think it's quite as long as we think because the scenario that you laid out is not a crazy scenario for them to get to 11.
Okay.
At 12, I still think it's there's too much margin for error for me to be really, really confident. But I think there's a legitimate shot that exactly the scenario you talk about happens and they get to 11. If they get to 11, now I think it's a legit shot.
Now, the one thing that I did not mention in the opening block that is still out there is if BYU is number 12, let's say Baylor loses to Oklahoma State, but didn't drop below BYU because head-to-head or whatever. At that point, the committee has done their job, but the bowl committees can take who they want.
Right.
So they could say, look, I know Baylor's 11 and BYU's 12, but Baylor has 3 losses. They just lost in the Big 12 championship game. We know that BYU brings the heat in Phoenix, and they're going to sell a ton of tickets.
The heat in Phoenix. I like that.
We're going to go with BYU. They have that opportunity.
That'd be nice. And it'd be a return from 74 for BYU. It'd be the 0-1 game we wanted and didn't really get, fun. Right?
Yeah.
It'd be the 2014 game we were hoping for.
Sure.
That would be amazing.
And I know some people think, well, BYU's not a Power 5 school. They're not going to want to take the money away from the Power 5. But BYU's going to the Big 12, so does that ideology kind of go away?
I think it changes the mentality.
I agree.
I think the whole discussion about BYU this year, from the time the Big 12 was announced, all of a sudden BYU got treated differently. They're not even in yet, but I feel like on a national basis, and I feel like the committee, what they were telling us last year we didn't like. BYU didn't play anybody. They didn't play any P5s, right? The committee has kind of put their money where their mouth is this year. They've rewarded BYU for playing 7 P5s.
Yes.
And for being 6-1 and for being 5-0 against the Pac-12. We'll see if they reward them again tonight for being 5-0 against the Pac-12 and move them up to 12. So far, the committee has been consistent. The very things that we were upset with them about last year, they've put up this year. They've said, listen, last year we didn't put you here because of this. This year the schedule is different. Last year, now we see it was not an aberration. I also think it helps, and you think that these guys don't look this in depth. I think they do. The teams that BYU beat last year, because you build one year onto the next, right? You stand on the shoulders of last year. All of a sudden, like UTSA is really like
11-1. San Diego State 11-1.
These
Houston,
schools, right?
Houston,
the schools that BYU beat last year are really good this year. Again, and so they're going, well, you know what? Maybe last year's 11-1 was better than we gave them credit for, because look at these schools, and now they just proved it, because they went out and played basically a P5 schedule. They played schedule as if they were in any, well, not like the SEC or the Big Ten, but hey. This schedule's as tough as anybody that played in the ACC. This schedule's as tough as anybody that played in the Pac-12. And so I think that committee's given them credit, and we'll see tonight if they do. And then we'll see if Baylor loses in that game to Oklahoma State, if BYU moves in front, a 2-loss BYU team ahead of a 3-loss Baylor team. I think they would, based on what they've done so far this season.
That's a great point. And what we don't want to acknowledge is that Coastal was actually good too. Like, the one loss was to a team that was good.
They were really good.
We don't want to say it, but it's true. Okay, let's talk hoops. BYU's up to number 12, Blaine. They make this massive jump from 18 to 12. Highest ranking at this point of the season ever. How high can this team go right now?
From a talent perspective, I think that ranking's right. From where they're at, and this is just from talking to Mark Pope. Mark Pope says, hey, we're good. This is a good basketball team. We have a ton of talent, but we're nowhere close to as good as we're going to be.
Whoa, what?
He told me 4 games ago, give us 5 or 6 more games, and then I think we're going to have a chance to be who we're going to be. I was going, whoa, they're already really good, because this is a team that can win games when they're not shooting it well, which is a big difference, because then you don't lose games you're not supposed to lose. You go on the road and you play and you're not shooting it great, but all of a sudden you lock a team down. BYU's phenomenal offensive rebounding. So when they're not making shots, they get second opportunities. They're really highly ranked in rebounding margin. Their assisted turnover rates, all the assisted turnover ratios, top 25. And so all of the little things that you have to do to win when you're not shooting it well, those things that San Diego State, for instance, is good at every single solitary year, where we're usually like, hey, BYU just needs to go score 85 points a game and shoot great from 3, and that's how they win. And then they have an off shooting night, and they lose on the road to a team they're not supposed to lose to. That's not this team. This team legitimately could go on the road, shoot terrible, and win.
That happened Saturday.
Right?
2 threes.
Right. And so what Mark's saying is, offensively, they just need a little time. There's so many new pieces that guys are still a little bit hesitant. Like, well, wait a minute, is this my shot or is this not my shot? And if you're not shooting with confidence in rhythm, knowing this is like the minute the ball's being either kicked out to you or coming on the swing to you, where as soon as I touch the ball, I'm shooting this. This is my shot in this offense. They're still not quite there yet with some of these guys. Foose is getting better every minute of every game, right? Tijon, he's almost there, but he's not as good as he's going to be yet, because he still hesitates once in a while on whether or not it's his or not. He's dramatically better now than he was to start the season, because he's understanding his role. And he and Alex are figuring out how to play together. Gavin Baxter's minutes are increasing. Wait till Gavin can play 28 minutes a game. because he's a force out there,
point.
right?
Running the floor.
And Atiki, he's going to get more and more minutes because he's going to understand defensive rotations and how he's supposed to defend the ball screens, and because he's getting better every game. So there's a lot of young pieces, there's a lot of new pieces. And I'll tell you a guy that I think before the season's over, we're going to go, whoa, that guy's good. And right now we're going, oh, how good is he? Is Seneca Knight. Because he's in my opinion, behind Lucas in understanding his role. But he's a crazy skilled player, right? And then some of our good three-point shooters, Trevenell's not quite shooting it the way I think he's going to shoot it when he figures out how this team works offensively. I love the way Spencer Johnson's playing. He's figured out his role. That guy's playing at a really high level.
A lot of confidence.
On both sides of the ball, right? We've always known he's a great defender. So I think 12's legit. Can they be higher than that? If this offense can come together the way I think it can and the way Mark Pope thinks it can to match the little things they're doing, like rebounding the basketball and playing defense and keeping teams down in terms of scoring. This is a really good team in scoring defense, right?
59 points
yeah,
a game.
this can be a legit top 12 basketball team all season long. I think they have to shoot the ball better, especially from three, if they want to make noise in the NCAA tournament. But this is a very talented, maybe most athletic top to bottom basketball team BYU's had.
Wow, I mean, based on the ranking, the Cougars are pacing for a 3 or a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. Which
now we're
sounds
talking about a Sweet
crazy.
16, right?
Right, yeah.
If that's the case.
Man, yeah, great stuff from BYU basketball and football and everybody across the athletic department in No Loss November.
Did we ever figure out, have any other programs, I don't know, like it's crazy to me, all sports, no losses in a whole month?
I can't recall.
It'd be hard to know.
Well, especially,
That's crazy.
and I would say November might be the hardest month to do that in. And the reason is basketball's in full swing, football's still going. Women's basketball's in full swing. Soccer's still going.
in the NCAA
right. And so you're late in the season, right? And so football's late in the season. Is it a harder month of the year for a full athletic program in college to go without a single loss? I'm not sure that there is, and I'd be interested. We have to put our researchers on it. Has anybody else done that?
We need researchers to do that.
We need researchers because we don't have the time. So
we've got time to make banners and stuff.
yes, we do.
We have time to look at all the New Year's Six
and New Year's
scenarios,
Six stuff,
but not that.
Yes.